You know, most of us aren't really interested in going a healthier or better way. What many of us are doing, and I was guilty of this as well in the past, is simply shifting your old furniture around and calling it a brand new room. I want to talk about the notion that most of us out there, and it's not intentional, we're not really looking to get rid of the old and what doesn't work and explore new frontiers and expand our minds calmly and openly. We're just looking for mirrors. We're looking to confirm our old biases. Now, a common mirror we all need, granted, is language. We all need to use exactly the same language reflected back to be able to communicate. But aside from that, does every word strung together need to be reinterpreted? Especially recently on the internet with censorship and everything, language has become a weapon. It's become combative, not exploratory, not informative, not educational. It's become this political tool above all else. You know, without going into it, we've seen recently the censorship in terms of free speech across social media, YouTube, Patreon, etc. And I was just reflecting on how are you supposed to, in an exploratory way, find your own path, find out who you are, and search for who you are, with so much censorship of exploratory thought out there. The maps have all been cut off. The signposts have been knocked down. You know, the doors have been closed. There's only one funneled corridor that everybody's supposed to go through with language. And as a consequence, thought is funneled through that very narrow, one-dimensional lexicon. You know, I've mentioned before my frustration at why people just get so angry and personally offended at general ideas. In conversation now, everyone has their sword out, wanting to be combative rather than conversational and exploratory and expand their minds and, you know, think, oh, that's another way of looking at things, or I don't quite agree, but it's food for thought. It's something to chew on. We can't chew on anything. It's as though we're intellectually starving because everyone has their sword out. You know, I say, I like apples, and someone combatively retorts with, so you don't like oranges? And this is the tactic that's being used today. There is no conversation. There's defeating somebody with language and censoring somebody with language. And think about what that does. Not only can I not learn something about myself and be a better person, I cannot get close to somebody because every conversation is cut short to conform with the narrow corridor of politically correct thought. And all you guys that get personally offended at my point of view, even when I'm saying you guys, I keep saying over and over again, I'm not directing you personally. I am talking in general to a younger version of myself or someone with my mindset of, you know, the tough love of male mentorship from someone who's older and more experienced. I would have appreciated this kind of friendly kick up the ass from your father or an elder with his arm around you saying, I've got your back. But to me, the way I hope I'm speaking to a younger version of myself is analogous to a splash of cold water on your face. Uncomfortable, but clarifying. If I joke about some of the frustrations we go through, I'm not making fun of what you personally might be going through. I'm laughing at the younger version of me, how pointless and silly I was to fret and worry about certain things that aren't worth worrying about. I hear guys saying, fuck you, human, you're shaming all men. I'm not. I'm giving an old me a kick up the arse. I mean no personal affront to anybody. I'm just showing how pointless it is to sort of worry about women, work, the system, all those things. And this personal offence and affront people take, this notion of notice that people aren't really looking for themselves or their own way forward. They're looking for mirrors to confirm old biases because it's comfortable. You see, after the red pill, self-actualization is finally looking for who you are, which means the finger is no longer pointing outward, it's pointing inward. And with the finger pointed inward towards the only path that can lead to self-actualization, I ask you, gentlemen, what is the point of getting personally offended at anything external, including points of views or ideas? Really think about that. To be open to going your own direction and self-actualizing, you have to be open to new information and not defending old patterns. It's unsettling, sure, because you've swept away all the old that you know just doesn't work for you anymore. And so everything's clean, and the frantic instinct is to replace it with something. The easy option is to do what you've always done in the past. So I get it's confronting and very uncomfortable, but I'd advise you not to defend old patterns that you know don't work for you anymore. Going down your path means finding your own path, which means thinking your own way. Think about it. If you're tired of the old ways and you really just want to find your way now, why would you be frustrated at anything anyone said about any idea unless you are still attached to them? Put down that sword, gentlemen, and put down that mirror. It's the notion of being comforted in old patterns, in searching for mirrors rather than searching for a way forward by constantly looking inside. You know, when you're trying to find your own way finally, being told what to do is really the easy option. And usually you're told to conform to old biases. And those old biases, most of them aren't yours. They're other people's scripts that you've tried and they failed for you. So why would you keep defending them? Why would you be offended when people challenge them? In essence, you want to challenge them yourself for your own health. I know it's an old reflex, but you need to resist being offended at other people's opinions and then defending old biases and reflexes that deep down you know you just want to be rid of because they don't work for you. You know, being offended because the world doesn't reflect you exactly and what you want, you know, wanting women to be mirrors. And very, very many videos out there concerning men's issues have an overwhelming preoccupation with why women aren't mirroring men's logic and perceptions and views of the world and men's nature. It's because they're not mirrors of you. Again, why does she need to be? Why does anything out there? Why does everything need to be a mirror for you to feel good? Just ask yourself that question. So she doesn't take your kids through the court system? So she doesn't leave you? Think about your need for certainty by the world needing to mirror exactly what you need. Think about your need for this type of mirror. Because don't forget that mirror is external, but really looking for you, self-actualization, is validation coming from inside, so that mirror's not outside anymore. And that's a very hard concept for a guy to wrap his head around, because men generally have to become men or have a sense of themselves becoming something through doing something from the external. You know, I'll get a job so I can get a house, so I can get the woman, so I can feel some sort of status with all these things that I do. So essentially, whether you like it or not, in our infancy, before we start to think of these things, men are empty shells that need to fill themselves up by externally doing things. And it's only when we start challenging ourselves, like what I'm suggesting, that we no longer need the mirror of female validation, you know, to confirm that we're okay, that, you know, that we're not always looking outside for some kind of mirror that will say, yeah, you're okay, you're loved, you're good, you're a man. It might sound cold, but once you look outside less You don't have to be anything for anybody. Once you look inside like that and your validation comes from you in your bubble in terms of validation, it doesn't matter what the external is. As harsh as it sounds, one person's validation is as good as another. It does not matter. The one that matters is yours, your sense of your own validation within yourself. And gentlemen, in terms of women, if you are at your center of validation, she's completely incidental. So it's not a slight on, the things you might care about. It's more of a being for yourself rather than being against or a slight on the external things around you. Thinking about yourself as an incidental factor is such a big betrayal. Most guys aren't really taking the steps to self-actualize and look inside. They just want to heal after a trauma or an ex. They want to be understood. They want their story heard. They want their pain accommodated and understood. They want people to sympathize. They want people to validate their story and their pain. They are simply looking to heal with the patterns of old language, of understanding and old stories. They're not really trying to get better. They're, especially in a lot of men's circles, they go there for their wounds to heal, and then they go back into the world and fight. Again, I'm saying put the sword down and stop fighting. You want a tool to sort of move forward? Get rid of that mirror, that need for reflective validation from the external. Grab that fucking mirror and just shatter it on the ground and sit with nothing. Know that mirror is the thing that keeps you tethered to that old, validating, externally chasing. Stop directly challenging everybody without challenging yourself. That's avoiding a lot. Be curious, gentlemen, not censorious. Stop trying to censor and be offended and cut conversation down and cut intellectual growth down. That's why sort of the anger among men rubs me the wrong way, because it's really limiting, intellectually especially, and in terms of growth. And being just smart about things. You want to grow? Get rid of the mirror. Smash it on the ground. Throw the sword away. Stop being offended. Be very suspicious of your reflexive biases and wanting to confirm them. Sure, women can be bad. So what? What are you going to do moving forward? How are your choices and your virtues, how they changed? Are your foundations stronger? Accept the world as it is now, calmly. Stop trying to change the system. Put the sword down, put the mirror down, and be curious. That's when you'll start going down your own path. Remember one thing, you can't be curious and angry at the same time. My suggestion, be curious, not angry, gentlemen. I hope this helped. Later. Subscribe, support, and donate by the links below. Thanks, gentlemen.